ladies, you know, part of the reason that we do this show is because I don't want it just to be an echo chamber of all men speaking, or just me and all women. I want to have a man, I want to have a congressman, I want to have left, I want to have right conversations. I think the more conversations we have, the better. So that's why I want to have a conservative, I want to have a liberal, I want to have a progressive, I want to have an anti-communist Marxist like Humberto out there over there. I want to have Natalia who's still fucking figuring it out. We're working on her. It's all good. And then, I was at model volleyball this weekend, and I was asking all the models, all female, except for the one girl that transitioned. It was a whole nother conversation there. But I said, what's the most important issue to you? The single most important issue to you? Half of them were like, I don't know, what are the issues? And then I had to name the issues. And then they all said women's rights, abortion, bodily autonomy, freedom of choice, my body, my choice. So, I mean, most guys are economy, the border, immigration, culture wars. So I want to know, just round the table real quick, and then we'll pull up some of the abortion stuff with Biden and everything with that. What's the number one issue for you, Toria?
I would say the illegal surveillance of Americans, FISA Section 702. FBI unlawfully surveilled so many Americans, and we should be using that against foreign and domestic terrorists.
Was this part of Homeland Security in 2001? What was this?
This was in the last decade.
Okay. So you're saying the number one issue to you is the...
illegal surveillance of Americans.
Okay.
And censorship.
Gotcha. So you're in the RFK camp. What he had to say.
I think RFK is just like some of the others that can use certain talking points. I'm not saying that he's a bad guy. I just think that he was thrown into the mix to take votes away from both sides. But Donald J. Trump actually said so himself. He said, I love that he's running because he thinks that RFK is more of an issue for the Democrats than for us.
He did say that. Polling would reflect maybe some otherwise, but Trump tweeted the other day, radical, progressive, liberal.
Yes.
And it was, we'll see what happens with that. Pixie, what's your number one issue?
Personally, I am very passionate about like poverty legislation. As like I've mentioned before on this podcast, I really believe in like economic mobility. So essentially policies regarding that and the ones that I think are most effective is what I care about most.
So poverty.
Yeah.
So what is the...
Would that be the economy?
What would that be?
Yeah, that would be, I guess, like related to like economic reforms or welfare reforms. There's like a couple of things like under that I think this panel is going to jump me for. But essentially, I hope that we move into a future where, especially since AI is getting so advanced, where we have some level of UBI.
That's where I was going. Is it UBI? Is it minimum wage? Is it basically this whole... UBI, welfare state situation?
Yes, like UBI, minimum wage, housing especially. Housing is a huge crisis in this country. People are just having their rent go up and up and up.
Gotcha.
We're not building enough supply essentially for the demand, and that causes so many other problems down the line. But yeah, things around that.
Linda Catalina, mostly peaceful Latina. What's your number one issue?
Basic stuff. So the economy, illegal immigration, censorship as well. Those are like my top three. Definitely not abortion.
Not abortion.
No.
Nat, you were there. How many girls said?
A lot of them.
I do have a lot to say about that because I take a very moderate approach, which we can just.
No worry, I'm going to bring that up. Nat, what's your number one issue?
I'm similar with Miss Linda. Immigration, that's a big one for me. Obviously the economy, but those are
what is it about immigration that it resonates with you?
Well, my parents aren't from this country, so their struggle to get here. And it's funny because I just had the passing of my grandfather, and they were talking about like the story of what they did. And my grandpa back then in 1976, he came from Guyana with my grandma, and they would help house the immigrants, let them get on their feet, and then they would go. And it was just interesting to hear the story of, how back then that was such a service and it was such a good thing, and they came out to be good individuals. And but today, that is not happening. They're coming out of force, they're coming out of horror, they're coming out of there's a way to go about it. And when things are taken advantage of, like immigration, they're coming in here and attacking our police, they're attacking our security. We're worried about, people that's not bombing, but essentially it's its own way of attacking the country. People coming here and they're hurting families, people, and climbing the wall. It's savage behavior. And so when you see that just openly, happening into the country,
See, you're paying attention to my page a little bit.
it's a little disturbing. And my family, they're very grateful to be here.
Fabián, maybe not so much you, but your district. Like you said, listen, I'm going on the markets, I'm meeting people. What would you say is your district's, your constituents' number one issue?
Well, I think it would be education. I don't think we're resolving anything without a properly educated populace. I mean, obviously the economy is important, public safety is important, but people really need to know what's really going on.
Okay.
And how to think for themselves.
Humberto.
What about for you?
I'm gonna go last. Humberto, go ahead. What's your number one issue?
You know what's really sad, Adam? That the only thing that can make Democrats win the election is killing babies. That's the only platform they have. Like literally, like it's abortion, women's right. Like candidates and voters. Like I don't vibe with people that are like so selfish that their only issue is who they are. There's so many problems in America right now. The economy, inflation is out of control. Illegal immigrants coming in. Like as a legal immigrant right now, I'm offended. Like they cap the H-1B visa every year at 80,000 people that are like me, that we have a college degree, we worked really hard, no felonies, nothing. We've been doing everything right, and they only let 80,000 like qualified people in, and the last few months they've been letting in like 100,000 every 2 or 3 days. So like I take offense to this. This needs to be fixed.
I just want to make a comment on the abortion thing. I think one thing a lot of the liberals miss is that everyone who's proposing abortion, they're not taking into effect women's health. Like the amount of women who have died on the table. A former head of Planned Parenthood actually called abortion the fries and McDonald's of the business, because if you're going to a McDonald's, fries and soda, it's like one of the most profitable things because it's cheap. And they look at it like a commodity. And that's the aspect that's not really talked about.
So personally, I mean, I don't know that I would ever partake in an abortion, right? But as a legislator, and part of my campaign was to be respectfully pro-choice. But at the same time, we can give a choice so that we can take away this debate and stop negotiating life, and then we can just invest in resources, and we can have competitively the lowest numbers of abortion in the nation. Yeah. I mean, I'm good with that. Is that something you would support?
Well, if someone has choice, I believe that they should be educated. And there's actually a lot of information that's out there. If no one's actually seen an abortion performed, it's obviously grim, but there's a documentary called Unplanned, and it's all about it. And I actually went to the March for Life back in 2016, and it's just, it is very educational, regardless of what view you have, just to kind of see the reality of the situation.
But for me, I would like to see the negotiation of life stop. And I agree, people don't know what they're getting into. They don't know the life-term physical, psychological effects of it. Sure, that's part of it. But at the same time, you don't have to take away a 12-week or whatever the numbers. I'm a guy. I shouldn't even be. I'm not a doctor. This is not my subject matter. But I'm not an expert. But at the same time, I was so shocked to know that when I proposed something backed by Planned Parenthood data, I couldn't get a counterpart to support this on the Senate side. My senator in the north part of my district is a Democrat, and he had to file this legislation. Let it time out, along with some LGBTQ stuff, like stuff that actually can move us forward to a healthier tomorrow. Like they're not allowed to advocate for anything but the extreme, and that's the issue. And arguably you could say that about both sides. So I'm not saying that one side's more right than the other, and I certainly wouldn't want to have the conversation or the counterpart to drag us to a common sense center. I mean, we're here to represent everybody.
We're going to pull up some of these stats in these articles. By the way, I'm shocked. No one said my number one issue. Actually, deeply offended. Okay, I'm going to curse right now, so censor your kids. The fucking national debt is out of control. It is out of control. It's insane. We are a capitalist country. We are the gold standard for the world. You're talking about babies and guns and borders, all important issues. If our economy crumbles and we can't pay our national debt, kiss this country goodbye. By the way, Humberto, do you have the U.S. national debt? By the way, I see red, I see blue. Do you know, here's a little fun fact RFK brought up. Do you know that Biden and Trump have added more to the national debt collectively than every president put together since George Washington? The number's not good. Can you pull up the debt clock, Humberto? It's insane. If you want to have a manic, depressive epileptic episode right now.
I'm good.
Stay tuned to what's going on right here. We're going to circle back to the abortion in a second. Can you pull that up? Because then there's some stats that we can show with all this. It's insane.
You mean this one?
It's just called the debt clock.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can put an image.
Do you have that stat? Like, do you have the numbers on how many countries are no longer trading on the U.S. dollar today?
No.
I mean, do people realize the impact of this globally?
Well, is this BRICS? Is this what's going on with that?
We are no longer considered the most powerful nation for quite some time now. And this is where we, as a responsibility for what we are able to optimize and create for this economy, for our nation, and what that means worldwide as a position, how we can affect real progress for other nations. This really is. I mean, it's part of the education part. Though. Just throw that back
here
in
you
there.
go, Humberto.
That's the one.
You know, I'm always like punch in, see what's going on here.
Right?
Wow,
Dude, if you try to like just punch in, look at these numbers. I think
Won't stop moving.
we are where are we at right now? $34 trillion. I've said this before. If you go into business with Jesus 2,024 years ago, and you made $1 million a day, boom, million, boom, million, boom, million, boom, every day, you and Jesus slanging Easter bunnies.
What?
You would not, at this point, not have $1 trillion that you have made in revenue. So we're talking 34 trillion. We have no clue. So we can do the cultural stuff here. We're gonna have a conversation about abortion. We can talk about grannies with trannies and this, and chicks with dicks, and borders and guns. Good. FTM, follow the money. It's insane.
Write that down.
Trump, Biden have added more to the debt collectively than all presidents put together. And we're out here arguing about whether a girl should play volleyball with the guys and the guys with the girls. It's insane. So I think, like, to me, how are we not focused on this? Whoa, whoa, whoa. If you like that one, click right here to watch the full SOSCAST. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel.